From Bridge by Words, I want to thank the Parliament House staff for being so accommodating and allowing us to record here on the premises, interviewing a few of the politicians and getting their advice for you and your political journey, audience. So, big shout out to Brenda, Chris, and Michael. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders connect with experienced politicians and gain insights and inspiration for their own political journeys. Today I'm joined by Evan Mulholland, and he's a Upper House MP in the state of Victoria. It's the Northern Metropolitan Region.
Yeah.
I butchered the intro there, but how do you better introduce yourself? Like, how do you?
Yeah, sure. My name's Evan. I'm the Liberal MP for the Northern Metropolitan Region, representing 11 electorates in the northern suburbs. If you draw a straight line from Melbourne CBD all the way past Craigieburn to Mulholland, that's where I represent and who I represent.
All there.
My office is in Meadow Heights, so I have a big focus on sort of the Hume, Whittlesea, Mitchellshire areas, and providing representation that's, I think, sorely lacking in those kind of areas.
Yeah. For like certain communities or certain... in particular, or
all communities, with a particular focus on the outer suburbs that are desperate for infrastructure, that have been neglected for so long, that are struggling with both cost of living but also crime, and of course infrastructure, the roads,
to meet that urban
state
sprawl.
of the traffic. Absolutely.
So what we do usually, I'll try to start off a bit light and fun. As a infrastructure freak, sometimes I find this fun. I don't know about you, but on your Instagram, I do like that you are a constant advocate for the Donnybrook Road.
And
upgrading that. So I bestow upon you, how do you fix it? What do you do? I know you're not an infrastructure guy or anything, but how would you best improve Donnybrook Road?
It's a good question. It's something I speak about every sitting week when I'm in the Parliament. I've made a promise to my community that I would. As such is the vocal anger about the lack of action on Donnybrook Road. Now, when the Liberals were in government a decade ago now, we actually signed a developer contribution agreement around Donnybrook Road, which is why the Mickleham side of Donnybrook Road is duplicated. It's a lovely 4-lane highway that sprawls all the way to Old Sydney Road, whereas you've got the bridge over the Hume and the Calcalo and Donnybrook Road side,
on the more western side,
which is single lane. It's an old farm track. It was never meant to cope with tens of thousands of houses being built on either side of it. So part of it's about planning. If you say to a developer, you owe us this much tax, let's sit down. While you've got the tools out, you can duplicate the roads for us before you build the houses and development around it. You get a much better outcome, both for the taxpayer, because there's value for money involved, than waiting over a decade for costs to increase and trying to retrofit something that's going to cause huge disruption to the community. And so, from about 2:30 of an afternoon, the Hume Freeway is banked up at the Donnybrook Road exit. You've got, people ignore the illegal U-turns further down the Hume because people just do an illegal U-turn to miss all the traffic getting off at Donnybrook Road. As such is the traffic. And I think, providing a voice to those people who don't have a voice is so important to me, because it is possibly the biggest issue in my entire electorate, and not enough people are hearing about these daily struggles that these families are going through. I think of people like Preet in Calcalo, who I've met with, and tells me that he often doesn't get home to kiss his kids goodnight.
Damn, that much traffic.
As the traffic, if you're leaving at 5:30, a job in the city, you're not getting home till past 7 o'clock.
It's a similar thing leaving in the morning too.
That's right.
Well.
That's right. So a lot of people will time their commute, leave early. If you're leaving sort of 6 or 6:30, you're gonna, it's still gonna be clogged up, but you're not going to hit the worst of the traffic. So
try to get above the wave.
People will get above the wave, but it's at a crisis level at the moment, and I just don't think there's the urgency of this government to do something about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, just because I see you're a big advocate for it.
Absolutely.
I follow you, and it
Thank
pops
you.
up every sitting week. And then the other thing, I guess something a bit lighter. Oh, so actually, yeah, your solution would be, double lanes or highway or something.
Absolutely, but it's getting it right in the planning phase, and this is something that the government hasn't done. Like that whole area, Cloverton, is going to be the city the size of Canberra. There's currently no proposition for a hospital. It's lacking, proper amenities that the rest of us enjoy as a privilege, and the road situation is an absolute nightmare. So you've got to have better planning involved when you're planning these estates. You strike these kind of agreements that would see infrastructure delivered before and as people move in, not waiting until a decade after for when it becomes a hot button, political issue and daily issue for these people.
Yeah, okay. So appropriate roads, even probably train lines that...
Well, Donnybrook,
hospitals,
Donnybrook,
the
the closest train station, is still on a V line.
Yeah.
And that's literally off the rails. Last week, a passenger carriage fell off the train. People at Donnybrook, because it's the last V line station, do not get on in the morning, and we know because they literally can't fit. And we know there was a secret report that was spoken about in The Age a couple of months ago about warning about crush conditions by the 2030s if we don't electrify at least to Mulholland, because V-Line was never meant to cope with
that many passengers,
suburban, urban stations. Now, V-Line's tagline is something like the fastest growing regional rail service in Australia. It is actually, if you look at the data, only the fastest growing because of suburbs like Donnybrook and Mulholland and Wyndham Vale and Melton that used to be regional areas, but they're not anymore because hundreds of thousands of homes are being built around them.
Yeah. Just expanding too quick, not putting in... So on the community front and the regional bits, and there was another fun thing I pointed out, spotted on your Instagram. You're a very good dancer, I think. I think you do. I think you are, because I think you've got the shadow for multicultural.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So that involves a lot of going to these events and being a part of all the different diverse cultures we have in this country.
Absolutely.
What are some of your favourite dance moves or events to go to show them off? Or
love our migrant communities. I was even at an Iraqi event yesterday with the Australian Iraqi Forum dancing again. A lot of our sort of Middle Eastern, Assyrian, Chaldean communities will often, part way through an event, just have an interlude where everyone gets on the dance floor. Yeah. And as a politician, I need to show that I'm with the community, and that's the way you do it.
Good.
A lot of our Hindu events similarly will do different dance styles. So the Nepalese community will do the Yoda, so you'll get in a circle and dance around. But it's fantastic, and being the member for the Northern Metropolitan Region, you have to have a big focus on migrant communities. So I thought it was a natural fit when I got the opportunity to become the Shadow Minister for Multicultural Affairs, because our migrant story is so important to Victoria.
Very, very,
and
very important.
In terms of my family's background, on my mum's side, I'm actually half Italian, and so on my mum's side, my late nonno migrated in the 50s. Their first outing when they came to Australia was to the Olympic Games.
Oh wow!
But they came to Australia, with nothing to their name but a suitcase. Didn't speak any English. Worked bloody hard to learn English. My nonno worked 6 or 7 days a week as a metal worker in the northern suburbs. Helped build the Snowy Hydro, and that's the kind of attitude people come here with. Yeah. Whether it be our Indian diaspora, our Middle Eastern diaspora, they come to Australia with this great aspiration, ambition about what our country can offer, and they stick to it and they work bloody hard at it. And so, one of the things that I think, as the Shadow Minister, it's so important to, keep your culture alive, and that's part of the Australian story. We have a lot to learn from other cultures as well, and certainly, I've been there a couple of times, but about a year and a half ago, I went back to Italy, a small town called Lamezia Terme, where my family are from in Calabria. But I took my young son along, and there was something special about him meeting his cousins and his zias and zios, and visiting where his family are from and passing on that to the next generation. And for a lot of these communities, that's why they have such vibrant events where they tell stories about their different religions, their culture, their gods. They celebrate, each cultural day, and we have a lot to learn from that as well.
Yeah, it's all a very important fibre that makes up
Absolutely.
the mosaic of something there, you know what I mean.
Yep.
It's just that is Australia.
Yep.
A migrant sort of story, and they all come here to contribute.
Absolutely.
To build this country.
Yep.
Yeah. Preach, sister. Love it.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll jump into some of the other questions for the actual interview. But what do we got? So before you even entered politics, what were you up to? What was life like before?
Good question. So I went to uni at La Trobe University, like most people in the northern suburbs, and got very involved in sort of political life on campus as well, a bunch of other things. So while I was there, I was involved in drama and theatre as well. That was a big interest of mine. I ran a theatre company in the northern suburbs, ARC, which runs a yearly sort of musical plays. It's got a couple of choirs as well, a cappella.
Yeah.
And was president of that company for a little while. And
it's still going to this day?
It's still going,
right.
but very much focused on how to get young people engaged in the performing arts. And so I've always had a huge interest in that, and still look fondly on my time in the arts. And I think that's on stage and off, having experience in both, it certainly helped me with my performative nature in the upper house. So I think with a double major in politics and drama and theatre, I've sort of in the perfect career now.
It explains the dancing.
Yeah,
Always so good.
Absolutely. So I worked as an advisor in the sort of Abbott opposition and government in the former Liberal government for former Senator Mitch Fifield, and did a bunch of other things. I've worked in the private sector as a consultant for Foxtel and Telstra, as well as in the tech sector as well. Did a bit of think tank work as a comm specialist also.
Yeah.
And in both 2018, I ran as a candidate for the Northern Metro at the number 2 position. We didn't quite win that spot, but at the 2022 election, I put my hand up for the lead position in the northern suburbs, and was thankfully supported by Liberal Party members, and work hard every day to bring people over to the Liberal cause, talk about things like what it's like to be in small business, what it's like to back aspiration. Yeah.
No, I'm a big fan of small business. I've worked for many, and I'm currently working for where it's just me and the boss. And it's some of the all the restrictions you have and all these things you have to do. They're the equivalent to the bigger companies. But they've got teams of people to do that.
And it's never been harder for small business to run a small business.
So I got a soft spot for that. Like you said, we might have to talk more after or something.
Yeah, sure.
So during all that, and also I like the perseverance. You try and try it again. So, I didn't get it, but next time. Yeah, good. So to actually step up in 2018, the first time, was there a moment that really pushed you over the edge, made you go, I need to step up, I need to represent my community? Or was there other factors, or what was that decision like?
Yeah, I really wanted to have a go. And we've won the second position before. We won it 2010 to 14. So I thought, well, I'm going to have a crack, because if I don't have a crack now, there might not be an opportunity for me in the future. So I poured everything into it, and put myself forward. Didn't get there, but made lots of connections throughout the community, but also the party membership as well, who all said, well, it's great to see you out this part of the world. We don't usually get a candidate or representative. And so when, still stayed very involved in the party, and the next time came around, I, there was a lot of members saying, well, you should put us forward. You're from the north. You have all the connections, and, you've got a bit of ticker about you. Why don't you put yourself forward? So I did. Yeah.
So what other than those points that the community would have said to put you forward, what other qualities do you think how would they describe you and say that you're perfect for it?
I think just a lot of energy and a lot of passion for both our movement, our party, but also the communities as well that we need to work on to win government and have a long-term Liberal government here in Victoria. So and I've taken that sort of attitude to being a member of Parliament might not be here for a long time. I need to make sure I'm fighting every day for these people.
Yeah. Take advantage of the privilege you
Yep.
have. Yeah. But that's true because, like, up in those northern parts, a lot of multicultural people in our communities, and they're all small businesses as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, all right, that aligns up very
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Like something like over 60% of new migrants to Australia start a small business. And now that tells me that they see themselves as their own boss.
Yeah.
But they see themselves, they back themselves in.
Yeah.
They back themselves in. And, what we want to do as a Liberal Party is, back them in for rewarding, for taking on that endeavour themselves. They're taking a huge amount of risk. And what we do as parliamentarians will often make it harder for them.
Yeah.
And you look at, the emergency services levy that's gone through. Many small businesses are reporting, they're copping land taxes and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, how can we actually make the burden easier for them? They've come to this country,
Mm-hmm.
they're having a go, they've taken all this risk, they're employing locals. The largest group of employees in Australia is small business employees.
Yeah.
We want more of them. We want more of them in work, and we want to make it easier for employers who are having a go to be able to employ more people.
Yeah. Good. I like it. So once you've gotten in, once you've started that chase, I guess for the first time and the second time running for the public office, what was there anything scary about it, or was there like a why me kind of moment, or
I think so.
Or it came naturally? Or?
So I got pre-selected in July of 2022, and now after then, just to sort of, to remove any conflicts, I actually quit my job, and so I was unemployed.
It was
for
the
about,
one at the consultancy?
Yeah, so with the Institute of Public Affairs, and because I wanted to sort of work hard as a candidate and make sure I was, clean and focused on it. And that was a huge risk because, thankfully my wife had a full-time job, but we had, almost 2-year-old, and my wife was pregnant. And so we thought, if I don't win this, we're in a bit of strife. So it was a big risk, but just poured everything into it, and really made sure there was no option but to get over the line. Now we got, over a full quota, which was fantastic. And, our preferences, arguably, as been said by others, helped, see off Fiona Patton from the upper house, and, put in, I think it was Adam Somyurek in the end. You hardly see him around here. But we had a good result in the northern suburbs. We saw some massive swings, particularly in places like Greenvale, which has encouraged me to both move my office there, but have a real focus on that seat. It's 6-7% margin. It's a seat that could, quite easily swing to us at the upcoming election. And so, a lot of my work has been focusing on communities like that, communities like Calcallo, and, in the outer north that really, don't get the advocacy they deserve. Yeah.
So is that, with that being said, is there like trying to strike that balance between being strategic so that you can stay in to actually voice for these people, and then also, I lost the question there, but striking the balance between making sure you're available for all the community and also securing up certain spots to have a longevity in government so that you can keep advocating. There's that balance to strike.
And there's a lot of people, and it's kind of a discussion that happened maybe when the emergence of the Teals started, where people were like, we should just ignore these teal areas and the heartland is in the outer suburbs. Now, I don't quite take that view. I think it's both. You've got to appeal to dual constituencies. If the Labor Party can do it, anyone can do it. And so, and I think that's kind of been proven. Tim Wilson was able to win a seat back. Everyone said all of our seats in the 2022 election in those areas would be wiped out by the Teals. They won no seats. But what I really wanted to do is make sure we've got a heartland in the outer north. These are people that are, naturally socially conservative, largely small business owners, have a lot of aspiration for home ownership, have a high rate of home ownership.
Yeah. That lines up with those traditional liberal.
Absolutely lines up with traditional liberal values. But a lot of the time they haven't seen a Liberal MP. They haven't seen a Liberal present in their communities making the case as to why people should vote Liberal.
Yeah.
And so, what I've been doing is getting out into those communities, running regular listening posts, being at regular markets, and really making the case that the Liberal Party is the party for you. And hopefully, people see themselves in the Liberal Party when I'm out there talking about their issues.
We're here to listen to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so it's that's the how you strike that balance. Okay, so once you're in, whether including the campaigning, policy and all of that, what were some of the biggest things you had to learn fast?
And this is obviously I'd been in staffing before, so I had some awareness of how politics works, and worked in the Senate. But it's much different being an MP.
Yeah.
You got to get your head around the standing orders. You got to get your head around where to be, what time to be there, what kind of different things you have to do in the chamber. And that's a lot to get your head around. It's a lot to get your head around the politics of the party room. Basically, as soon as you are elected, you're getting call after call because you've got a leadership ballot.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot to be kind of thrown into the deep end, and you've just got to have a little level head about yourself. And that's all the fun and games of politics, I guess. But basically, as soon as I was elected, I was attending different events that I was getting invited to out in the community, and letting them know that there's a new face in the northern suburbs, I guess, and
a Liberal guy in your corner,
willing to do the work from day one.
Yeah. So you said then, you just get in sort of thing. One of the first things you had to do was a leadership thing. So what's involved with that? What's that like when there's, on your party front, and there's, all right, who's going to be our leader? Who's going to represent the party in the opposition? What was that like?
Very interesting. You got to catch up for coffees with people, and it kind of reminded me of my pre-selection, actually. It was just, you're catching up with lots of people and catching up for coffee, except, people want to have to catch up for coffee with you to give their pitch and everything else. So, there's a lot of talking to colleagues and things like that. And, being new, you just, as a new MP, I kind of just sit back and take it all in and,
in that learning stage.
Yeah, that's right. So, and that kind of progressed, by August of the following year, I was deputy leader in the upper house. So,
oh wow, yeah.
Got an opportunity to, I guess, move up the food chain of the party a lot quicker than I thought I would. And again, just plugging myself into different sort of policy work and advocacy and contributions in the chamber that I guess led my colleagues to think that I might be a good fit.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I was just curious because so then it's all these people trying to get you on side to pick you or to get your vote. And what it is it just the elected officials?
Yes.
That choose the leader?
In
That's
the party,
how that works? Yeah. Okay. So then, a bit of a running around. You want to put me?
But obviously, when we get through those, you're straight back to work. You're plugging away. Yeah.
Okay. So once the leadership stuff's out of the way, what are some of those challenges of learning everything and, making sure you're at these meetings or these committees or, what's sort of
so you're on parliamentary committees, there's own sort of internal committees, there's shadow cabinet, there's all sorts of things going on. And then outside of that, you've got all these community events you're being invited to. You've got to set up an office. You've got to set up an electorate office. You've got to hire staff.
Because you said you moved it as well.
Yes.
So is that a whole thing as well?
Yeah, so they put me in like Epping or something like that. And I was on the second floor of an industrial estate on Cooper Street in Epping. Yeah. And I thought, this is not a place where constituents are going to come to. There was no disability access. There was no bus stop. So I was like, no one can have access here. And so parliamentary services, I asked them about, somewhere around Greenvale, right? And they said, they'll look into it, but they hadn't found an office for the existing Labor member. And so I was like, because I was elected second, I guess, on the ticket, I had a priority because I was up the top of the elected officials in the upper house for Northern Metro. There was a priority on getting me moved. And so I did it myself. I went up and looked at places for lease, found one in Meadow Heights at the shopping centre, ground level, high flow of traffic. Spoke to the agent, teed up a meeting between them and Parliamentary Services, and probably about 10 months later, I was in the office.
Because they've got all that logistics they have to do.
Yeah,
There's a lot
they
of
have to
security
do
involved.
a fit out, they have to do security, everything else. But, you know, I made a promise to both party members that I wasn't going to be the kind of upper house legislator that would just hide away and not think they were focused on the community.
Yeah.
And so I've done exactly that. And, you know, Meadow Heights is very multicultural.
Yeah.
So in my office, I've got, you know, Turkish speaker and Arabic speaker, Syrian speaker, to make sure that I can, you know, meet the needs of the communities in that area.
It helps to have that diversity within the office so that you can actually talk to everyone. Yeah, okay. So they can be heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I was just curious what that process is because you said you move the office and then this and that. No, I've been to them because I've recorded a few at other offices, and it's like going through a fortress.
It is. And, you know, it's a and they're the kind of things you have to get your head around, and how you're going to manage staff, and what kind of work you want them to do, and what kind of things you want them to focus on, and you know, it can be. I guess if I hadn't worked in politics before, it would have been a lot more confronting.
Yeah, because so it is that, isn't it? It's like, all right, cool, you're elected, great. Here's all these things you have to do.
Yeah.
Do you think people that aren't as prepared or don't have as much of an understanding as you, would they just be like trying to do it all themselves to begin with, and then eventually? And
it relies on, you know, the support of your colleagues as well. So a lot of colleagues would call other colleagues that have been around longer and ask them advice on, like, what do I do about this? What do I do about this? How should I structure my office and everything else like that?
As well, sort of
you
thing.
know, when I got elected, you know, it was a bit after the federal election, which we had lost, and I ended up catching up with an old mate who'd been a chief of staff throughout the sort of Abbott, Turnbull, Morrison governments, you know, very, very experienced grey hair, I guess.
Yeah.
And was like, I'm happy to come on for a few months and set up your office.
Oh, wow.
And so I just saw that as a great opportunity.
That is,
and put together the structures that I still use to this day. But it was great having that support to, you know, help sort of establish the office. Yes, I'd been a staffer before. I'd worked in an electorate office, and, you know, my first job in the electorate office was one day a week at Matthew Guy's electorate office in Rosanna when he was the member for Northern Metro. And so I'd worked in an office before, obviously worked in an electorate office and a ministerial office, but, you know, there's lots of small things that you kind of need to know, you know, the budgets, the finance, everything else
which is good to have specialised people for those tasks.
Yeah.
So that you don't waste too much time doing that, and you get more time in the community.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I was just interested about the ins and outs, what's involved there. So, so once you're in, is it what you expected pretty much, or was there a reality? Did it hit differently, or?
Yeah, it's some elements are surprising, and then some elements are not. You know, one thing that hits you is sometimes the Parliament can sit quite late, particularly the upper house. You can kind of have all-nighters, and so you got to just prepare yourself for those energy levels. And making sure that you're, you know, ready for it, being in the chamber a lot, and you know, it's you know, balancing that and family life can be a bit of a juggle. So on my first full sitting week for 2023, our daughter Cece was born.
Oh wow!
And so, you know, I kind of took that week off, but then didn't know anything about leave arrangements or pairing arrangements. So 2 weeks later, I was back for a sitting week.
Yeah.
And I felt like, in retrospect, having watched other colleagues have kids and take more time off, I felt kind of robbed by that. So, you know, recently our third child was born, and I took a good sort of 5-6 weeks off.
Just to actually be there, because it's
a few sitting weeks off. And,
I know this isn't a parenting video, but it's very important to be there.
You'll never get that time back.
Yeah.
And my office was still fully functioning, and we were still serving the community, representing the community. But, you know, that family, I know, you know, for people in the north, you know, a lot of them, family is so important. And whatever job you have, you really need that time, particularly, you know, with 3 kids, one really young, you know, you'll never get that time back. And so, that was we have pairing arrangements in the Parliament, and thankfully the government provided a pair, and I was able to have that opportunity to be with my family.
So someone operates as a proxy for you on certain things?
So the vote's cancelled out, basically.
Okay. So with the difference there, you said that like the upper chamber can sometimes stay a lot longer. Is that because there's more debate involved on certain things? So people have to...
So if you're in the lower house, the government can just, because the government has the numbers, they can just guillotine debate and pass it, send it to the upper house.
Yeah.
In the upper house, the government doesn't have a majority. Yeah. So if the crossbench and the opposition want to stay in committee to ask questions and run through line by line different parts on the bill, they can.
Yeah.
And so, on recent changes like, bail laws, drug injecting room, other controversial topics, we've sometimes been in the chamber till 4 a.m.
Far out.
And so, these debates can go on for a long time. And so you really got to have your energy levels about you. I'll often be in the parliamentary bar, not drinking alcohol, but having a ginger and lemongrass tea.
Yeah, something to wake you up.
Something to wake me up, yeah.
So, wow, 4 a.m. My God. And is that all in the red room, or is it in the committee rooms as well?
No,
it's all just in there.
Upper house, yeah.
Are the chairs comfy enough though?
Too comfy.
Too comfy.
Yeah.
Some
You
people
sink
fall
into
asleep.
them, yep.
Yeah, okay, just checking.
I don't. But,
No, they're good. You switched on.
You can kind of have to pinch yourself to stay focused.
Yeah. No, that sounds tough. But is it? So, like, is that the toughest part of the journey, or is there other parts of this that are difficult?
Diary management. Making sure you can't be everywhere at once. So just making sure you're prioritising what you're doing and what you're working on and how you're going about things. You kind of have to focus on your portfolio, focus on, your colleagues, speaking to your colleagues. You have to focus on what...
So that everyone agrees on everything?
Yeah, what the agenda is, what events are you prioritising in the community, what you're speaking on in Parliament is really important as well. And you would have seen a lot of what I speak about is related to topics like infrastructure.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if people see you having a real red hot go, like sometimes I get really passionate in the Parliament.
He's saying what I'm thinking.
There's a clenched fist, and people go, "Yeah, that's that's something," and that's what I'm thinking. And so that's kind of really important to be able to show that energy and passion. Anyone can go into the upper house and have an A4 piece of paper and read word for word a speech that their staff member has written. And so a lot of my prep work for a sitting week, yes, your staff member might write some points. But it's just, going through line by line. What am I saying on this?
Yeah, okay.
And often I find... how
can I say it in my words sort of thing?
Yeah. How can I, take this into my words? How can I go in and show some real... show what my constituents are saying to me in a form in the chamber that they're going to relate to. And I find my best speeches are ones where I'm not really referencing any notes.
Channeling that theatre, the improv.
Yep. Yeah, and so that's one thing where my time at doing theatre and plays and musicals has really shaped my, I guess, role in the chamber, because you do have that ability to learn a few lines. I find you just have to learn a few stats and have to have it be basically across a topic, and you can speak for a while.
Yeah. I think you channeled a little bit earlier when we were talking about Donnybrook.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's good. Yeah. So I guess fun question here. So you've got shadow multicultural portfolio. What were the other portfolios again?
Shadow Minister for Major Projects.
Yeah, okay.
And
So that's
Shadow Minister for the Arts and Creative Industries.
Okay, so the major projects, that tickles that infrastructure bone? Yeah, okay. I was curious. Would that be, if you get government, is that the kind of portfolios you'd want to go for?
Yeah.
Or is there any dream portfolios?
No, they're very much what I'm about, and I think major projects is good. Kind of highlights, I've certainly been highlighting the infrastructure challenges in this state, and we do have a lot of them, but also holding the government accountable for its major projects at the moment. We were told the North East Link was going to be $6 billion, and then it was $10 billion, and then it was $16 billion, and now it's $26.9 billion.
Yeah.
And, similar, Westgate Tunnel, Metro Tunnel, both about $5 billion over budget. And so, you really have to be on the ball to highlight that scrutiny. In 10 years, we've had over almost $50 billion in cost blowouts on infrastructure projects. And so when you see other things the government has to cut back on, like recently they cut a really, really important service for my community is Parenthood. $1.3 million to run a service where if you've got kids under 18, you can call up and get advice on different things that are happening with your kids.
Yeah, okay.
Completely cut without any notice. And, when the government's spending billions, hundreds of billions on infrastructure, but just blowing out so easily on projects and not having any cost control, there are consequences to that. And so I see, us as a party and as a future government, really playing a role in, yes, building infrastructure, but making sure we're getting value for money for the taxpayer so that, people don't pay the price elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. Just keeping things, trying to maintain that status quo, but like not status quo, you know what I mean? Like keep all the commitments you've made to the community there.
Yep.
Without falling short. Yeah, right. So, how do you best stay connected to your community?
That's a good question.
In the person you were before you entered politics.
Yeah.
If it's changed you at all.
Yeah. You make a lot of friendships in this game, but, a lot of them outside the parliament. So, particularly we're talking about multicultural communities. I've made some fantastic friendships in our migrant communities that, I'll probably have post-politics.
Yeah.
And, they're the people that keep me in the loop about what their community is thinking and what issues come up in their community and, things that I might be able to raise in the parliament. And so I find, those friendships really, really valuable. The one thing, that I have kept, a big focus on is obviously my own family. And
I noticed that, and I do
there.
like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I see it on your Instagram. You're like, this is my wife, these are my kids. I bloody love them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good. That's good.
Absolutely. And I think, in places like Mulholland, it's kind of triple the birth rate of the rest of Victoria. Lots of people have large families and, people struggle with work commitments and everything else. And so, I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, a Nepalese community, for example, say, hey, it's really great that you bring your family to events.
Yeah.
And you bring your kids to events. We love it. But it also says to both the women and the men in this community that you can do the same and you can do the juggle and it's fine and it's normal. Because in some communities, they'll be told, don't bring kids to this, don't bring kids to that, or it'll be seen as sort of
unprofessional or something.
Yeah. And so people love it when I bring my kids to things because they see themselves in me.
Yeah. And I think that's beneficial for the kids too.
Absolutely.
Getting to experience different.
My kids are going to grow up so worldly.
Yeah.
And benefit so much from having that interaction with our migrant communities from a very early age. And, they love going to different festivals and cultural festivals, fairs, and trying different foods. And it's fantastic for them as well.
All right. That's very grounding to hear. That's a good thing to do. Second last question. If at all, how do you think you've changed post and after getting in?
How I changed? That's a good question. I just sort of have to be sort of a lot more on the ball with lots of things, thinking about a lot of things at once. And so, I don't think I've particularly changed my personality or anything. What you see is what you get, but you do, have to cast your mind to lots of things at once. And, also have to really, when you get home, you got to have that time to check out for a little while.
Take the hat off.
There are lots of things that can just consume you in politics. What's this Labor person said about me, or who's writing these comments about me in a community group, and who's doing this and who's doing that. And if you're not just checking out of some of those things, particularly anyone that's, negative, you're just going to get consumed by it.
Just eats you.
And so, I still, got a group of mates that pre-politics, getting into an MP that I've been friends with for a while, we'll still have sort of a regular monthly kind of dinner or going out to a pub or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you've got to keep that sort of connection. Otherwise, you just become politics, and it can't be good for your mental health and everything else. You've got to draw that distinction.
Yeah. Remain a person. Don't
Absolutely,
let it hollow you out.
remain normal, and I think that's what people, in politics as well. That's what the community is looking for. And so when I got elected deputy leader, I said, in my main press conference, and it got run on all the nightly newses, said, if you're a mid-30s, outer suburban parent with a couple of kids and a mortgage, I'm going to speak for you. I'm going to fight for you. And you've got a seat at the table in our party. And, for a lot of people, they're looking for an opportunity to see themselves in their representatives.
Yeah.
And, I find through a lot of community feedback, they don't see themselves represented in the Labor Party. And so what I'm trying to provide for people in the northern suburbs is a voice. If you're a Labor MP in the outer north, it's very hard to advocate for your community that all the infrastructure and roads are crap.
Yeah.
Because you're dissing your own government.
Yeah, true.
And so, they just want honesty.
Yeah.
And they want, I guess, more straight talking from politicians. Now, as politicians, sometimes that's not always possible.
No.
But as much as possible, if they know you're genuine and you're a genuine person who's fighting for them, they'll gravitate towards you. And certainly we've seen that a lot in the north.
Yeah. All right. No. So final question, good sir.
Sure.
If you could go back, time machine, all right, to the first moment you considered entering politics, what advice would you give yourself and why?
Strap in, I guess, just make the most of it. And, looking back on my journey now, whether it be, through student politics and other things, it's hard to see how I would have done things differently or tried to do things differently. There was a lot of people encouraging me prior to that, to have a go at federal politics and I always thought no, because state politics is closer to the people.
Yeah.
You're closer to the people you're representing. And I think we saw throughout COVID, state government is very powerful. It can make a lot of positive differences, but also make a lot of negative differences to people's daily lives. And it's also where, we need to, focus our contribution, but focus our, quality people getting into state politics as well. That's really important.
That actually represent the communities at less degree of separation.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. No. Well, beautiful. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Evan, for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.